welcome to Good Mom, Bad Mom. This is Danielle, the bad mom.
And this is Jennifer, the good mom.
Today, we're going to be talking about momming on empty.
Which is really ironic because we recorded this episode 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, we
And
thought we were on
We
empty.
thought we were on empty.
We had no idea what that actually meant.
Jesus was like, bet.
So being a mom, it's hard, but what happens when you're running on empty? And for me, I don't know about you, but it looks flippin' ugly.
I mean, it was like on empty for me was like in the ER with the panic attack, sobbing my eyes out for 14 days.
Happens.
Literally. But I mean, like I feel like we did okay. Like,
I mean, we're still here.
We're still here.
We're still here.
We made it. So we have real life recent events
like we're
to talk
in it
about.
Man, we're in it. We're not completely out of it, but
yeah,
we're coming out of it.
Yeah.
But so today we're going to be talking about that battling chronic illness, constant exhaustion, or struggling with mental health, and how motherhood just doesn't stop.
And it
didn't. It did not at all.
How many times did you cry in front of your kid this week?
Either
kid.
And I hate it that
I'm with you.
My little one got it the worst.
Oh, I know.
Because the older one, she was smart. She was like, yo,
mom needs a moment.
I'm going to a sleepover and see you later. And I felt super bad. And in fact, I could feel it coming.
Mm-hmm.
But I had bought tickets for a petting zoo, and I was like, I just have to make it to the capybaras.
Yeah.
I just have to make it to the kangaroos and the capybaras. And then the night before it was like, oh, hey, by the way, it's canceled. And I was like,
oh no, they're closed.
Yeah.
By the way, they're closed.
And I need help from Jesus.
I don't know what to do. I was supposed to see the capybaras.
Yeah. Everything, it felt like everything was falling apart.
Yeah.
I would agree. The dominoes were going.
I second that.
So today we're going to be talking about the challenges of parenting when you don't feel your best physically, mentally, or emotionally. And man, the guilt from not feeling on all of the time.
I think you and I 2 weeks ago had a different version of getting real about the challenges meant.
Yeah.
Because I feel like even at our empty 2 weeks ago, we still had some control of our lives, where I feel like the last 2 weeks we've had absolutely no control.
Yeah, it's totally been
and we have been I've cried in front of, my oldest has seen me cry more time, and not even from anything traumatic. A song came on the radio, I sobbed my eyes out to it.
I think, I didn't, of course, I cried in front of my kids, but I think the thing that's most alarming to them is that I couldn't get up off the couch.
Yeah. I couldn't
function.
And we've talked about this too, because you've kind of pushed me to show emotion in front of my kids.
Yeah.
Where I'm not I'm a mommy's got it all together, and behind closed doors I might fall apart, but this week I didn't have a choice.
Well,
and that was hard for me, because that mom guilt of oh my gosh, my kids now need therapy because I'm a train wreck.
See,
was the feeling I felt,
Now that I'm thinking about it, I think that the reason it's actually helpful for me to tell them, hey, I'm really sorry that I'm kind of falling apart right now and that I'm crying, but I just feel sad right now. I don't feel okay. I don't feel good.
Yeah.
And I think saying it out loud to someone, even though it's my kids,
mm-hmm.
I'm hearing myself say that. And so it's so it was almost cathartic for me, where it was someone is validating. I don't feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And then also too, I'm explaining to them. And of course they're looking at me and they're like, hey man, it happens, Well,
and just teaching emotional intelligence as well.
For sure.
You're not going to have every day that's sunny, rosy, and the sun shining and all that.
Yeah. So, okay. So how do we show up for the kids when we're struggling to show up for ourselves? My favorite that I did on Saturday, which just the movie in my head of what that must have looked like. I text Jennifer and I said, can I just come be with you?
Mm-hmm.
We don't have to record. We don't have to do the podcast. Can I just be with you? And she was like, yeah, come on. And I made it in the door, and I made it to the living room, to the couch, and I saw her, and that was it. And I just collapsed in fetal position in her couch and cried. And my little one thankfully knew to just run upstairs, yeah, man, I'm out.
Go play with a girl.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think like just some backstory too of like, okay, well, you guys sound like a hot mess with like nothing happening. Like there's legitimate things that are going on in our lives. And like one of the things that I struggle with that again, you consistently yell at me for is people have worse problems. So I should suck it up and push
I
forward.
don't think that's fair.
And I feel like you've kind of taught me to be like, no, like you need to have this moment. And my problem led to I don't have those moments, which then landed me in the ER with the panic attack,
Mm-hmm.
thinking I was having a heart attack.
Landed us both in
Landed
there.
us both. I waited until 4 a.m.
Yeah. I mean,
And then I know then it was a conversation of like, okay, babe, is she staying with the kids or are you taking me to the ER or are you staying with the kids and getting them to school and is she taking me? But I think like
I made it
it
here
is
in 7
yeah,
minutes.
it is out of the realm of my comfort zone, even as close as we are to call you and be like, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
I can text you that.
Yeah.
Like it's still uncomfortable for me to be, and I didn't have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like that is kind of like, whereas moms too is like, we have these expectations that our friends are not living the same real life
Yeah.
we're living.
Yeah.
So, like, I shouldn't break down to you because you've got real problems that you're dealing with. And it's like, that's not the case at all. And it's almost offensive to you when I don't come to you. And
Well,
I'm
and
like,
also
why wouldn't you
too,
tell me that?
I think it's the ultimate selfishness because for me, it's like I don't have to worry about me right now. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like it gives me a vacation from my own head,
Yeah.
where I can step out of it, and sometimes I don't know, like maybe it's just me personally, but
Yeah.
I need that break because I'll just sit there and cycle and ruminate
Yeah.
in it.
Which for me, I'm used to being that for you.
Yeah.
And it was like role reversal
Oh,
the
and I
last
loved it.
couple
I mean, I
weeks.
didn't love that you were going
Yeah.
through it, but but no,
You're
it
like,
was
finally my
nice.
moment. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but it was just nice to like where it was like, all right, like, and it kind of helps put things in perspective for me. Like, I think that probably bought me a few more
Yeah.
days, you know?
Like delayed, like your little,
Yeah.
yeah.
But letting go of the unrealistic expectations. So like with me too, I knew that I was emotional and I knew that my little one had had enough,
Yeah.
and I really didn't want her to see anymore. Like I'd explained that I was sad, that it was
Yeah.
okay, that I was going to be fine, but I also felt myself not being okay.
Yeah.
And I thought I've gotta,
Well, and then you proactively removed yourself from that
yeah,
environment. It was like this staying here is giving me, pause for anxiety or fear or, grief or sadness or whatever it is that I'm feeling. Instead of sitting there in it, you were like, I need to be productive and move and process this. And in doing so, I know that I can do that in this environment somewhere else and still
yeah,
feel safe and,
yeah,
secure and controlled. And so, like, reach out to those people that you have in your life, whether it's family or friends
yeah. Well, and another
or
thing,
Danielle,
or
because she just
me,
said she loves it. Call
no,
her.
I meant that for you.
Oh.
Uh, Stop trying to get my circle to be bigger. Like I can't handle you. And you wonder why I have anxiety. It's this right
You just said
here.
it made you feel better. I was trying
About
to find
you, like Lord. But another thing that I did, and single mom here, what I did throughout the week is I ran a bath.
Mhm.
And my little one, she didn't want to be without me because my kids are very sensitive too, and so they knew, they
Yeah.
know when mom's off, and so it was so cute. My little one had made a bed outside of the bath and
She
had
sat there
her.
and talked to
Yeah,
you?
well, yes and no. She had her computer,
Oh,
and
okay.
and I was just sitting there kind of just in my own little
She
world
was
and
just
everything.
being there for you.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
and she put her little hand on the edge, just wanted me to
yeah.
like touch her hand for a minute, like, "Hey, we're all okay. We're good."
Yeah.
And it was just, and again, that just kind of brought me into perspective of, or brought me into the present instead of
Yeah.
worrying about what's going to happen, what's going to
Yeah.
happen, which is kind of where my anxiety was taking me, of like, what's going to happen kind of thing.
Mhm.
And so for those that don't have support at home and things like that, like there's things like that as simple as having a bath, or well, in fact too, when we went home Saturday from your house, I got a wild hair and I turned up the speakers as loud as they'd go, and we had like a 30-minute dance
A
party.
wild hair.
A wild hair. I
Is
had
that like, please translate that.
a wild hair.
Countryism.
Oh, like I just a, hey, we're just gonna do this just
Just
out
like
of
a,
nowhere,
oh,
like a
okay, okay.
random, like
Just just
here
an
we go.
urge. So like an urge
Yeah.
of like, yeah,
Yeah.
got you.
A
Okay.
wild hair. Where are you? Like, what? How do
I'm
you not know this?
I've never met a wild hair.
Well, yes, you
Is that a
have.
bunny? Like a hare? Is that a rabbit?
I mean,
I feel like
I
this
guess
is
it
a I feel like this is
depends on the spelling that we're using here. I don't know.
either way, it was a squirrel, ironically.
Yeah,
So
obviously we're like reeling still from our like mental breakdowns, our mental
I would say
capacity.
too, like leading up to that, like take better care of yourself. You and I had this conversation that I was like getting to my max when we recorded this 2 weeks ago. And instead of
Yeah.
sitting my butt down, I kept pushing because I was like,
Yeah.
I should be strong enough. I should be better. I should be able to maintain this pace for X amount of days or X amount of. And I was like, having these conversations with God, like, God, it's Tuesday. If you give me to Saturday, I won't get out of bed. I'll rest. I'll do whatever you need me to. And I'll just sit still and be still. And he gave me till 20 minutes after Tuesday.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean
And
that
he's like, I've been telling you for 2 weeks to sit down.
that's yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was kind of like with me where I was like, I got to make it to the capybaras, and it was like, hey,
Yeah.
it's canceled, and I was like, oh my god.
Yeah. And like, how do you then move from that moment?
And it was scrambling. It
Yeah.
was scrambling, but at the same time, it's kind of and I think that maybe as moms that we're kind of good at this, or women in general, we're kind of good at
Mhm.
this. We know our resources. Like
Yeah.
we're very resourceful, and so it was a moment where it was like, okay, take stock. What can
Yeah.
I do? What can I do? And I think that I prepare. I mean, I had frozen pizzas
Mhm.
and stuff in the freezer, and
Yeah.
I had hot pockets. I mean,
Yeah.
typically I try to cook a little healthier, but I do have those things on hand just in case. And then of course I've
Yeah.
got the bath and I've got the loud music and all the things. But
And I think on top of like mental load too, sometimes we forget like there's a lot of moms, including both of us, like both of us have autoimmune diseases and
yeah,
both of us like have days where it's like it's not the mental, it's the physical.
yeah,
How do I physically show up when I'm unable?
yeah,
Like mentally I'm great,
yeah.
but physically I'm unable. And
That's why I
going
just moved from my couch to yours.
pretty much. Pretty much.
I mean, that's kind of where I
But I think
was.
too of like we've kind of talked about this like this week of like, hey, what we've been doing hasn't been working. And that's okay. It's okay to overhaul like your routines and your systems if you're burning out consistently.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely you if this is a pattern. So
Hmm.
like take some stock with yourself and be like, hey, I might be the problem. How do I set myself up for success better? How do I make it so that I have, can push myself? Like if I am not taking care of myself by taking baths, if I'm not taking care of myself by just letting everything mental build up, then like that's not gonna longevity is not an option for me
Right.
anymore. So how are you doing these little daily things? Like, hey, I might have a bad day, so let me make sure I've got some freezer food stock so I don't have to like do fast food or worry about buying things because I didn't properly prepare.
Right.
Or hey, can I like the biggest thing for me this week has been 20 minutes of meditation
Yeah.
of like literally laying on the floor and checking in with myself. And that to me, I would have laughed you out of the room.
Yeah.
It has been the only thing that saved me the last 14 days of sitting in silence with myself.
Yeah.
Like talk to God, talk to no one, lay there, whatever it is, get off your phone, get off TikTok, get off the
Yeah.
doom scrolling, sit in silence with yourself for 20 minutes.
Yeah. I think too with me because I do have my phone and
It's
I'm
easy.
yeah, and one thing that I actually did it Sunday and it felt really good. I started just watching movies, like movies that felt good, not
Like good old TV movies, like put your phone down and yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and like just really like and ones that were good for my psyche,
Mhm.
not ones that were my usual.
Like more hallmarky, like, or are you talking like just like uplifting and
I mean, uplifting, but also, well, definitely maybe was
oh yeah.
one. And I don't know if anybody watched the movie like I watched the movie. He's talking about these three different women that were in his life, and the whole mystery is figuring out who his wife or his soon to be ex-wife
Mhm.
is and all that kind of stuff. And but you watch these three women and they're like I can see myself in each one of them. And I kind of was just like, ooh, which one am I kind of like?
Yeah.
So it kind of brought, but then it kind of made the question of, well, which one would I like to be,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing. And then it's like, okay, well, one thing that I have started doing is and I think I mentioned it before in another podcast where it's like the Matthew McConaughey of like always chasing the future version of
Mhm.
yourself. Well, you got to make who that person is first,
Well,
you
you gotta
know?
take care of you
Yeah.
to get to her.
Exactly. And so but by doing that, it's visualizing how does she think? How does she walk? What does she
Mhm.
do? Like
Yeah.
how does she talk to herself, kind of thing. And so it was kind of that. And so you can also take from those moments in your bad moments and think, okay, well, how would she react? Or like
Mhm.
how would she get through this,
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so I mean that's another tool that you can use that certainly did help me where it was
Yeah.
just kind of like, yeah, I mean it seems bad, but it's not all bad.
Yeah.
And this is a moment. This is a moment.
Yeah, we talked about that a lot. This is a chapter, not my story.
Yeah, like it's not
Yeah.
always going to be this way. And
Yeah.
in fact, I think on the way home, I told my little one, I said, "Baby, I'm really sorry that I've just kind of been off." And I was like, "But this is temporary."
Yeah.
And like there was one time there was a time in the during the divorce and actually after the divorce I started having to sell off everything, like
Mhm.
including my bed, and I had to
Yeah.
sleep on a mattress on the floor, and the girls were so upset about it. And at the time, and I don't even know how I was this way, but I had looked at them and I was like, it's not a big deal. They were like, well, what are you talking about? It's your bed. And I said, no. I said, I was like, I'm selling this right now
Yeah.
because later on I'm going to get a better upgrade.
Mhm.
And I have since gotten a better upgrade
Yeah.
actually, and it looks exactly like the old bed, but it has
It's better.
drawers. Yeah, it has drawers, but that's what I explained to them. And
Yeah.
even this weekend where I was like, you remember when I talked to you about this bed and that I had to sell and everything, and look at my bed, isn't this better? And they were
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, it is. And I was
Yeah.
like, it's kind of like that. It's just temporary. It's just
It's just,
temporary
yeah,
things.
shifting your mindset too, because like when you're in it, when you're empty,
Yeah.
the world is
Oh,
ending.
for sure.
There's no better,
No,
there's no
because you
anything.
don't have the answer right then. Because if
Mhm.
you did, you wouldn't be going through it at the time.
Somebody shared this with me and I wish I could remember it, but my brain has literally lost everything in it. It was talking about, I'll give you as much of it as I can, and I'm so sorry that I don't remember the exact verbiage or where I got it. But it was talking about being from point A to point B. And in the beginning of doing something, take education, take anything. If you start, you kind of don't know anything, right?
Right.
And there's this point on the wall of this is my start.
Right.
And then, move down the chalkboard or imagine a whiteboard or whatever and put another dot. That's the end. Now you're knowledgeable in whatever that topic is.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. The
Yeah.
the
And
unknowing to the knowing.
it talks about like the
Yes.
learning phase. And the longer you're in that learning phase and you can master being uncomfortable, because that's what it is, right? Think about a task. Think
And
about
the
you.
feeling is frustration. That's
Yeah.
what they said.
The
Yeah.
longer you can sit in frustration and like, think about it, learning a task, something simple of like, you want to learn piano. You're
Yeah.
going to be super frustrated when you
I'm
started.
super frustrated you haven't taught me.
But then the closer you get to more knowledge
You're
and
busy having
excellence.
breakdowns and
Yeah.
I want to learn to play piano. You need to get it together.
I'm gonna need you to get on YouTube. They have videos. There, and it talks about that learning area. And once you get to knowledge, you're like, oh, okay, the learning was worth it.
Right.
But what's really happening is you're creating resilience.
Yeah.
The longer you can sit in that, and that's mental, that raising parents. I mean, I told my oldest this weekend, I was like, hey, I've only been a mom to a 12-year-old one time, and it's you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm learning with you, baby girl. Like, I'm not gonna get it right. I'm gonna try my best, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna apologize to you when I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I'm trying. And so, like, think about it in that aspect of your mental health, of your mommying on empty, of like, there is building resilience in a lot of what we do. And that
Mm-hmm.
resilience to me doesn't always have a positive connotation, because that means I had to go through something. But
Yeah.
if you look at it from I'm learning, I'm in the learning zone. My frustration is me learning something and kind of shifting that perspective. And I mean, like, it's hard because listen, speaking academically, like, I hate not being the smartest person in the room. Like, I hate not having information on something. That is an insecurity of me, of
Right.
like, and so being uncomfortable and sitting in that learning of like, I'm not good at this yet,
Mm-hmm.
is awful.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to stay there. So like, if you can sit in it and like, again, sit with yourself for 20 minutes, like, they see healing. What is that quote? Healing is relative to how much truth about yourself you can accept.
Yeah.
So how long can you sit there and be that frustrated and uncomfortable and build that resilience and build that knowledge? Because if you just are like, I want to get from point A to point B the quickest, sure, you learn something, but did you like build something?
Yeah, but is it sustainable at that point if you didn't actually like learn?
I would say it's like specific to whatever the situation is.
Yeah.
Like, you know, obviously there are some things that you only need Cliff Notes versions of.
Sure.
But then there are other things like in relation to yourself and we're learning about yourself. And, you know, one of the things, and my mom says this to me all the time, and I'm sorry, mom, but I'm going to bring it up because you know it drives me crazy, is that I'm too old to change.
Ugh.
And it's like, because you don't want to sit in the uncomfortable. You don't want to sit in that frustration that I'm frustrated with myself because I should know better, because I should do better, because I should be better.
Yeah.
And if you can't sit in it, then you don't grow.
Yeah.
And sometimes that empty, mommy on empty, that's where you're supposed to be sitting.
Yeah.
That's where you're supposed to be building that resilience. That's where you're supposed to be learning about yourself. And I hate it.
Oh no, it's awful.
I hate it.
And you're supposed to be forgiving and everything and
And kind to yourself.
Yeah. And
I can be kind to you, but I should be better.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's that mentality. That's that self-talk that we have built for ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's like, maybe the habits that you created for yourself were sustainable for a while.
Yeah.
But maybe they're not serving you the second half of your life.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, there's another point to it too, where, you know, I am very open with my children. I mean, when I say I'm open, like
Age appropriate.
But I remember, you know, because my mom was a single mom. I knew when she was sad, I knew, and I mean, that's kind of a thing that I have where I want to fix, you know, because me trying to fix other people is actually me trying to control other people so I feel better. It's like the most selfish thing that you can do, because what you're trying to do is you're trying to make them feel better, even at your demise of it, to, you know, or you might not actually want to do those things, but it's actually the most selfish thing that you can do, because all you're doing is trying to regulate them so they will regulate you, because you're not okay until they're okay. That is the reason why I find that it is so important to show your kids, I'm not talking the raging, like, you know, thing, but like crying or like saying, hey, I'm not okay right now, you know, things like that. I hope that when my kids grow up, that they, you know, because when I look back at my childhood and everything, and I don't have that to look back and be like, well, my mom did this, and now I'm not saying that my mom, you know, she's an awful person, you know, all that kind of stuff. You know, she wasn't exposed to the things that I have exposed myself to, that I've learned, and to be able to cope better, and you know, things like that. But I want my kids to be able to be like, what did my mom do, you know, when I felt like this? You know, what did she, you know, she said it was okay to be this way, so this is normal. You know, where with me, I look and I'm like, oh my God, this isn't normal, and oh my God, my world is coming down, and oh my God, I don't know what to do. I don't want that for my kids. I mean, because I think that that's more debilitating than what's actually going on. You know, if they see that, okay, she's falling apart, oh, but now she's okay,
but then she picked herself back up.
Right, exactly. And so, I mean, and my mom would pick herself back up, but I never understood what was going on. It was just chaos. You know, I never actually understood what this is.
Well, and I think I said that to you this week, because I think we talked about this, that one of my New Year's resolutions was giving up managing other people's emotions. And I think I looked at you and I was like, the irony that I gave that up and I can't manage mine. And I was like, I feel like I'm hemorrhaging emotions and I don't know what to do with them. And I remember sitting on my couch and you washing my dishes and thinking it was the end of the world because you had to wash my dishes, because I'm like, but you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, it's
no,
just
I get it.
Like the us accepting help and the us being able to like teach emotional intelligence is so good in practicality. But you and I, to our core, need to change how we think about it.
Because to me, I don't know if this is it, but weakness is what comes to mind for me. Like, oh my gosh, I'm showing that I'm weak. I'm not being strong. Like, I'm showing that I'm weak. And that'll get you killed out in the wild, is like, for me, that's my mentality.
Don't be a burden.
Don't be a
burden.
You're
the slowest gazelle if you're a burden.
Gazelle.
You said out in the wild. I was going
I know. I love it. I just love that you picked gazelle. So it's a mind shift change.
But I agree with you. Like, I mean, I would have loved to maybe be a little more in control of my emotions when I showed my kids. Unwillingly showed them when I was falling apart. But they're gonna go through hard things. They're gonna have bad days. They're gonna cry on the way to work. They're gonna cry to a sad song. And teaching not necessarily normalize it, because like I'm also not a victim mentality person either.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
let's
No.
not stay in it and
No.
sit in it,
Yeah.
but take the time that you need
Yeah.
and then move forward.
But I think the other thing is the last breakdown that I had, what, 4 years ago, during the divorce,
I
and
blacked it out.
I wish I could. But one thing that I've noticed this time is I bounce back faster.
And that's what I was telling you too. The last I had postpartum depression terribly. I
Yeah.
think we talked about that. Is I mean, like, I was days away from grippy socks. I think my husband would have taken me if I hadn't fought so hard for it,
Yeah.
or fought so hard against it rather.
But
But
now we're fighting for it.
now we're
Please
fighting.
put me in
We're
grippy
like,
socks,
that sounds
72-hour hold. That
that
sounds
sounds great.
amazing.
But I immediately, when it happened, like when I started just spiraling, and people are like, oh, you just do your breathing and your like, that's not where I was at. I
Right.
was out of control. I was hyperventilating. My blood pressure was through the roof. Like, I could not catch myself.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where it was like, I need help now.
Yeah.
And I can't sit in the corner and cry. Like, my kids need me.
Yeah.
I need to get help now. And immediately I was like, Danielle, I'm not okay. Went to the ER. 2 days later, I was at a doctor and I was like, I'm not okay. I don't know what's going on with me. I was like, I need therapy. Like, let's get all back in it, which I mean, I have not been in that in years.
Yeah.
But immediately I was like, I know where this ends up.
Mm-hmm.
Immediately I was like, I know what happens
Mm-hmm.
if I wait, if I sit, if I stay here. It doesn't just affect me. So where it's been 14 days, or that's the number we're going with.
Yeah.
It would have normally been 45.
Right. Yeah.
And so I agree with you of like where we're like tips and tricks of like, okay. But then I was like, do you walk around like this all the time?
Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I do. Why do you think like mindset coaching, going through the certifications and all that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
that's where my tools came from.
Yeah.
Because also too, you have like people who don't have insurance like me. I don't
Yeah.
have insurance. I
Yeah.
can't go to the doctor. I can't do all
Well,
these.
if you're going to the doctor, it's life threatening.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
But
mean,
anxiety is
yeah,
not taking you to the doctor.
no.
Yeah.
And also too, I have a family full of addicts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could go and I could get a bottle of liquor
And self-medicate.
yeah, I absolutely could. Am I going to do that?
No.
Absolutely not. And so,
Well, because you know where it ends up.
right. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, and so that's the other thing too, where, earlier I'd said, get the frozen pizza, get the Hot
Yeah,
Pockets
yeah.
and things. Like, while you're good, while you're okay,
Prepare.
like
Prepare,
mentally,
yeah.
like I know when I'm feeling this anxiety, like I know I need Jennifer, or
Mhm.
I know I need a hot bath. I know that I'm feeling this way. So what are my mantras? Because I
Yeah.
know what I'm about to go into.
Well, and for me too, I think you've joked about this before where I was like, you're like, my kids are killing me. And I'm like, turn on Jesus music.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that incessantly loud,
Yeah.
because I needed him to be louder than what was in my head.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I mean, like, my husband found this thing for me, because, and just full transparent, let's see, I started having panic attacks in our bedroom.
Yeah.
And like, I woke up from a sleep into a panic attack, and I couldn't sleep in our bedroom, I mean, till this week.
Yeah.
Because every time I walked in there, that feeling resurfaced, and I felt like a baby.
Yeah.
I'm like, who is 37 not able to sleep in her bed?
Yeah.
And it was one of those things where it's like, it's okay. You're not the only person who is like going through something, or has created some type of imaginary fear or whatever it is, but it's like, you're bigger than it. And so
Mhm.
for me, like, one of the things we talked about too was like, at some point the fear is going to have to face the God,
Mhm.
and so it's like, if you believe in faith, if you believe in this, then start believing. And for me, that was like the same thing as you telling me to feel what I'm feeling. And I was like, okay, I felt it. I'm good. But like, I couldn't get it into my body,
Right.
where my body would understand, like, okay, I have faith. Okay, I'm breathing. I'm doing my
Yeah.
4-7-8 breathing. Like, I was frozen and I couldn't get out of that space. And it's like, it's okay to go ask for help. It's okay to be
Yeah.
like, I don't know what to do. I'm not okay.
Yeah.
I am freaking out right now, and I
Yeah.
don't know how to stop it. I couldn't even begin to tell you what was wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I still have to get up. Like, this is 4 in the morning. I've been up since 2. I still got to get my kids dressed for school tomorrow.
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes you got to depend on people, where you were like, no, you need to go sit on the couch. You took my kids to school. My husband picked them up
Yeah.
from school. You know what I mean? It was
Not
like
a
one of
problem.
those things where it's like, why do we think we have to keep pushing? Why do we think we have to keep doing when there's nothing?
I think that that's the other thing, is that it's like it's again, it's something else that's taking control.
Yeah.
And like, we don't want that control taken from us. And it's kind of like, so I guess that it's almost, that's a mind shift
Yeah.
change, is that it's
That
not,
perspective. Yeah.
yeah, it's not taking, it's not, it takes a village, and you have to let
And I
go of
used
that.
every single person in my village last week.
For sure.
Every single one of
And
them.
not one of us had a problem with it. Like,
Which is insane to me. Like, I understand that, but like, you know, you're the same way of just
yeah.
like, I don't want to be a burden.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Like to my
It's,
core.
yeah. And I think, well, and
Yeah.
I think that it's harder too for me because, without having family, and even though like I look at you as family, but it's still,
Yeah.
why would you want to do this? Like,
Yeah.
why
Yeah.
would you want to help me?
Yeah.
Like, why are you here?
Yeah.
And
Like, what
then,
is it that you want? What is this going to cost me when it's
yeah, or
done?
like,
Yeah.
or how can I repay you? Like, I'm already thinking, like, what can I do?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And for me, it was just like, okay, this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
She needs this, so she's going to get that. Like, that's just how this is.
Yeah. So what did our parenting look like this week?
Hell.
It was awful.
Yeah.
I actually, like, my husband has typically work from home and he homeschools our oldest. For some reason, he had to go into work this week that I'm having the mental breakdown that I'm
Because,
having
yeah, why not?
because that's what happens.
Yeah.
So I'm having to take my oldest to work with me. So there is no point where I'm not parenting.
Right.
There is like the car ride there that I would use to get my sanity. Now I'm a mom in it. The car ride home to mentally prepare to be home to be a mom. I'm already a mom during it. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like there was no break in between either. So then it's like, okay, what are we doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like nothing well.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. It just is what it is. It is what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
like I
But
said,
forgive
with
yourself for that.
for sure. And the
Yeah.
tips that we had of like prepare for things to not be okay,
Yeah.
because there's going to be times where it's just not okay.
But and I think this too, I think the beautiful part about it is now that I'm not on the upside, y'all, pray for me, but I'm actively getting there.
Yeah.
I don't think I would have made it through the week without her. You know what I mean? Like I saw it in that moment as like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I had to be a mom right now. Like I don't have it in
for
me.
sure. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like that girl, like
Mhm.
playing her favorite Spanish song and dancing in the passenger seat is probably what kept me waking up the next day.
Yeah,
You know
for
what I mean? Like,
sure.
and I told her, like, y'all, and I told Danielle I didn't really want to share this because I felt like a terrible mom, but I might as well share it. Like, it was to the point if I was like, hey, baby girl, can you come here? Immediately she was like, Mom, what happened? Are you okay? And I felt terrible because I was like, I'm putting this on her. Like, I'm stressing her out. I'm giving her anxiety. And I was like, I need to rein it in. But at the end of the week, I just want you to know, I was like, I don't think I could have got through this week without you. And I was like, I don't want you to think that you need to like help mommy because mommy's a train wreck.
Yeah.
Mommy just had a really hard week. And I'm so grateful that you helped me make it through by your laugh, by your funny jokes,
Yeah.
things like that. Like my youngest, we went to a restaurant yesterday, dry as can be. Like this is something I do, and Danielle, dad jokes are like my thing. Like they're terrible. My sweet baby girl, dry as can be. We had just left church or what did I say we were? We were like at dinner or like we had left church and we were like going to lunch or something.
Okay.
And she leans over to me and she's like, if two vegans get in a fight, is it still beef? And I was like and it just like shocked me, like because it was so unexpected and it like changed the whole mood that day. And it was like, so where I was like, I cannot in the moment, there were so many light moments that kept me going that as I looked back on was like, I probably wouldn't have made it if she hadn't have been there giggling, or probably wouldn't have made it if I hadn't watched her have fun with my coworkers about something. You know what I mean? So it's like, there are things that you can find small joys in of like, I barely made it, but you know what? I showered today.
Yeah.
You know what? There's deodorant on today.
Yeah.
You know what? My kids had 3 meals today.
Yeah.
Even if every
I
single
washed
meal
my makeup off.
Yeah. Even if every single meal was McDonald's, they had 3 meals today.
Yeah.
Like celebrate what you're doing well.
The small wins.
Yeah.
It's not about the big
and
wins.
not even well, just what you're doing like okay at because you
You're
raised
accomplishing,
them.
period. Yeah.
That's the other thing too is I think that like we assume 1 week is gonna irrevocably change their lives.
Yeah.
Which in some aspects, yeah, there are things that could do that. But in this aspect of us like having a mental breakdown, like if that's 1 week out of the year or 2 weeks out of the year in my case, like that's not even a large percentage.
No.
So give yourself some grace of like, hey, where was that statistic? You only have to be a good parent 30% of the time to not mess up your children.
Oh my God, that's low.
It feels low.
That's low.
Let me look it up.
That's creepy. Like,
I think the statistic was low.
I think that's to keep the statistics of what the world is
I think
now
that's
with
just to
mental
make
health. Good
Yeah, I think that's to make everybody else feel better.
Yeah. Lord.
Let me look it up. You keep talking. I'll look it up.
I wouldn't. No. And I don't know. And I think that that's where my perfectionism does come in, because I do feel like at times
We're all or nothing.
well, I try to overcompensate because of what I didn't receive when I was a kid. And so I feel extra pressure. And then right now, where I feel like I'm going down, where there's a lot of parallels with, the women that are in my family, which
30%. I'm so sorry. That's low. Please continue.
But I feel like, especially when I have, anxiety and things like that, where like the anxiety that goes through for me is that it's like I'm becoming the people that I have lived my entire life swearing I'd never.
Really?
Yeah, like I'm not only failing myself, but I'm failing my kid, because I wanted more for them. I wanted more for them, and it would stop with me. It ends with me.
Yeah.
Like that's what it was supposed to be. And so when I go into these anxieties and I go into these hard things, like that's what's going through. It's like I failed. I'm gonna become them. Like I'm gonna become them. And it's not fair to do. I'm not gonna become them. And I mean, like what happened, when I finally let go and I released, and it was just like it's gonna be okay. And like I finally was able to break through to myself. And I mean, and thankfully it was only right.
And that's the thing too, is we fight the fall.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just fell,
yeah,
it'd be over and
just
done.
let it go. but I mean, thankfully mine was only like, it's like 2 or 3 days now, but I'm still shaking a bit. But I mean, but what happened when I let go? I went on a job interview today.
You have a job interview tomorrow?
I got a job. Well, I got 2 job offers today, and then a job interview tomorrow. I mean, like, so it's all in God's timing. Like
you're being provided for.
Yeah, you will always be provided for.
And you have been so fortunate too, in that you have been able to be off this much time.
Yeah, but I am not relaxed the whole entire time.
Well, I mean, it was not in your intentions to be off this time.
Yeah, and I think that
but you, like you said, you prepared.
Yeah.
And when it was good, so that you could stockpile enough that this was even an option for you.
Yeah, and I think that it's helped me appreciate more of like, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want
that. You want to like preface that? That sounded very
dark. No. I just mean I don't want.
Oh, in this spot.
Spot. Like I don't.
I was like, folks, we might have to do a well check. Please pause.
No, I don't want to be here. In this spot. And like I have to constantly prepare. I have to I want to have that stability. So it's like that's kind of what my journey is right now, is figuring out how to sustain the stability.
Well, and I think we talked about like that point A to point B of like being in that learning period.
Yeah, like that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at.
You and I both last 5 days before we're like, I've learned. Why am I still here?
Yeah,
hello.
Exactly. Yeah. Where I'm like, hey,
like we're not
we're
patient.
Quick learners on everything else. Like, what's the problem here?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Excuse me? Does someone work here? Like we're not patient.
Yes, no, not at all. And it's just hard. It is what it is. Hopefully you all, I mean, well, not hopefully that you're going through this, but hopefully you listeners out there at least know if you're going through something like this, or you can kind of understand certain things, like you're not alone. And and it's just a season.
And we have no idea on some of these, like we wrote down a lot of points. It's how to ask for help without feeling guilty. I don't know how to do that yet, but I do know that like I need help, and sometimes that overrides the guilty. And then later on I might be like, oh my gosh, I was like so cringe and I was such a burden and I'm so sorry, but you know what, I got through it.
I mean, the way that I, because with me, it was really hard for me to even ask you, like, can I come and be here with you?
Which is crazy because I had just cried all over you for 10 days. But maybe that was why, though, because you were like, I don't want to add to it.
Well, but one of my motivations too was, but I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I don't want to sit in this.
Yeah.
Like, and for whatever reason, and man, that's the one thing that I have learned too with this is do what feels good. Like what feels like and I don't know how to explain it other than what feels like flow.
Yeah.
If there is like where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, not in the sense of like I can't do this because I'm not capable, but I can't do this because there's a block there.
Which was like, I think that was for like, there were some things where I was like, oh, I need to go do this, and it would like make my chest hurt, and I was like, no. Yeah. And then I would be like, okay, well, what if I just like lay down on the floor for a minute? And my body was like, that might be okay. And then we laid down on the floor. And so like that kind kind of flow of like,
Yeah.
your body's going to tell you what it
Yeah.
needs.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
My body was telling
Absolutely.
me what I needed 4 weeks ago.
I mean, and I even used, I mean, like I said earlier, like I even used the fact that I had my kids, that was my motivation of you have to do that. Like you have to ask for help because
You have your
you have
children.
your children and you're not okay.
Yeah.
And, you know, and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, even that, like, that's okay.
Yeah.
Like that, what better motivation?
The next point we have is letting go of unrealistic expectations. And we just told you we didn't do that either. But we're trying.
Yeah.
I think a lot of this is just forgiveness to yourself.
Yeah.
A lot of it is I may not know what I'm doing right now, but I'm going to do what I need to survive, to
What feels
protect my
right.
family, to make sure my kids are okay, to make sure they have food, they have clothes, they have whatever. And if I'm doing that, then it's okay. Like
Yeah.
that's enough for today.
Yeah.
Or if it's okay, I need to pass this off to my spouse, or I need to pass this off to my best friend.
Or I
And it's
need to
like,
go to therapy
or I mean,
or go talk to somebody.
I mean, I went and talked to a doctor and was like, "Hey, this part of my life I may not be okay to do on my own. I might need to go back on medication." And that was a conversation that we had, you know?
And that's okay.
And that to me feels like failure.
It's not.
But it's not.
It's more failure if you don't do anything.
It's more failure if I sit up there and stay in my bed and rot and am incapable of being a parent.
Or you can't go to bed.
Yeah, that has been my problem is not sleeping.
Well, no, I mean like where you physically can't
Oh,
go.
I couldn't even go. Yeah, couldn't even go.
Like and you don't. Your bed is amazing. Who doesn't want to be in that bed? Like,
I literally walked
I
and
feel
saw
like
it and
that
couldn't
is
stay.
actually self-sabotage. But yeah,
You're like, all right, James, you're downstairs on the couch. I'm gonna take this one.
I'm gonna take this one right here. But yes, but you're still just, God, if anything, remember, just because you're going through something doesn't mean you're a bad mom.
It's your chapter, not your story.
It's your season. It's just a season. Seasons change all the time.
Yeah. We have on here to give words of encouragement, but honest to God, if you just want to give some to us, that would be so helpful.
I think we've given some words of encouragement.
I mean, the world is heavy right now. I don't know a single person that doesn't feel heavy. And so I hope you can resonate with this. We shared more than we intended to just because that's what it felt like needed in the moment. And obviously, if that reaches someone, if that gets to one of you, if that keeps you putting one foot in front of the other, then we did the right thing, you know? But
and I mean, comment, reach out to us, you know, if you're struggling, if you need resources.
Danielle, for real, will be nice to you, I promise.
I will, just while you're not feeling well. And then it's game on. Totally kidding.
The views and opinions. No, I'm just kidding.
No, thank you for joining us, and I hope that we make some kind of sense and we reach some
Be
people.
kind to yourself.
For sure.
Because it's real easy not to be. It's real easy to put unrealistic expectations on yourself and tell yourself that you should be perfect and you should be doing this and you should be handling this a certain way. And that may not be what you're supposed to be doing right now.
No, that might be the reason why you're where you are.
Yeah.
Like, do just something a little different.
So if you're feeling like you need to fall, my unprofessional recommendation would be fall. See what happens. You might be built back up into something.
Or a blanket down, like something soft, you know.
We recommend a couch.
Be smart about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love the couch.
But I mean, like, I feel like you felt this today. Both of us were just like, I feel like I can fight. Like, I feel like I finally got some of my fight back. I don't have all my fight back.
No.
And like you said, we're still shaky.
I'm still shaky. Like I've had nothing but coffee and I've eaten today.
But there's that little like light back in our souls of like,
I was able to go to an interview and I got 2 job offers.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And it's like this is gonna sound real crazy, y'all. Bear with us. But like one of the things we talked about is like when I was sitting and like doing those 20-minute things and stuff, like I talked to God a lot. And like God and I had a lot of conversations of like, I need you to be ready for some things you're not ready for because you're not dealing with some things. You know what I mean? And so it's just like, maybe you're supposed to be breaking right now because you're supposed to be being filled up with something new, with something better. Yeah. It's a new season. With something that serves you more.
Your season's changing and that means that you have to change a little bit.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you for joining us and hopefully we'll be a little bit more lively next week. So,
even if we're not though, we
don't judge us.
I mean, yeah.
I mean, if you want to, go ahead. I mean,
yeah,
we have each other.
But I mean, it is what it is. It's part of life. It's a cycle.
Yeah.
It's just your chapter.
It happens. Your favorite. It happens.
It happens.
All right. Subscribe and like us on social media and join us next time.
Bye.
Bye.